This video is made by a human with no AI and also just lacking a little bit of sleep. Enjoy. Alright, I have not been uploading in a very long time, it feels like, and I'm going to try to change that, so here we go. What's up guys, it's your boy Chrysalis here, back at it again with a video or something. I'm not great at intros, unfortunately. And I'm going to make this video as kind of a response to the current trend going on with OpenAI's Studio Ghibli filter, AI generated whatever that's floating around. If that's you and you're doing it, then I wouldn't recommend watching this video because I probably don't like you. If you want thoughts I have on that more so in full, because I'm not going to directly tackle that subject in this video, I will leave a link in the description to a TikTok that I made about my thoughts on AI art in general. It's honestly probably one of the better TikTok rants, or whatever you want to call them, that I've done in my personal opinion, or at least the one I'm the most proud of doing, so yeah, check that out. But instead, I'm actually going to talk about a bunch of Studio Ghibli movies that I watched last year because I caught all the movies that were part of Studio Ghibli Fest 2024, and I just haven't decided to make a video about that until now. Silly me, I know. So in case you weren't aware, the good people from G-Kids partnered with Fathom Events to put out a bunch of Studio Ghibli movies in theaters. It's just not all the ones you know that are popular, like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, My Neighbor Totoro, but also some that are not as heavy hitters, like The Secret World of Arrietty, Castle in the Sky, Pompoko. A ton of really good Studio Ghibli movies that enter the theaters both in English dub and Japanese spoken English sub as well, if that's more your thing. Me personally, I'm just more of an English dub guy. That's just how I roll. Not to say I've never watched any Studio Ghibli movies in Japanese spoken English sub, but again, I'm more of an English dub guy. So yeah, there were 14 of these movies that played last year in theaters. Yes, 14 of them. And at a certain point, I just decided to become committed to catching all of them, and I did. Even two of them that just ended up not playing at AMC's, I had to like go out of my way to a whole other theater to watch those, since I couldn't use my AMC A-list for them anyway, since it was Fathom Events. But yeah, with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and talk about all the movies that I saw. I'm going to be doing this from the one I liked the least, since they didn't show any of the bad ones, if bad Studio Ghibli even exists, and the one I liked the most. So yeah, get ready for that. Before I get started though, I do want to apologize for the lack of activity on my end. I have been really trying to rack my brain on how I'm going to do this script / review for the Mickey 17 review. So I'm hoping to try to get that done by the time it hits video on demand. I actually honestly thought it hit video on demand already, but I've got a few days to do that, since apparently it hits video on demand on April the 8th. So if you, for some reason, did not catch Mickey 17 in theaters, shame on you by the way, you can get a digital copy of it on video on demand come April the 8th. And if you've been avoiding reviews, or you just not sure if you want to spend that money to watch it, again, I thoroughly recommend seeing it in theaters instead. But if you can't, then my review of that movie will be done hopefully soon. And if not, I will let you guys know, because it's been rough trying to write. Anyhow, that's the update I want to give you guys. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So number 14, since I'm going to go from 14 to 1 like I said, it's going to be Pompoko. I did like Pompoko quite a bit. I think the concept of the raccoons just outright sabotaging or even killing the humans, and also masquerading about as humans, was really interesting. Really a movie that in its own way is definitely Studio Ghibli about man versus nature, and in this case, nature versus man. I just felt that this movie was a bit pessimistic for my liking. The whole thing where they fight the humans and fight the humans and fight the humans until they just inevitably give up was kind of depressing to watch. I get that it was kind of the point of the film, but for me personally, I just wasn't too crazy about it. Not to say Pompoko was a bad film by any stretch of the imagination. It definitely was really good, and I recommend it, especially if you're someone that maybe finds the optimism of a lot of Studio Ghibli's films kind of monotonous to a point, because a lot of them are like that. You'll probably get something out of Pompoko. Since Pompoko comes from the creator of Grave of the Fireflies, a film I have not watched yet, and hopefully I will sometime soon. At number 13 is The Cat Returns. Again, good movie, just not, in comparison to all the other ones I saw, one of my favorites. I think The Cat Returns was really charming. I appreciated the amount of cats in the movie, and I did like that it's probably the only Studio Ghibli movie that I can think of that works as sort of a unofficial loose sequel slash spin-off of another one. The cat that was created in Whisper of the Heart is in it, and I really like his character design and everything. Apart from that, I just wasn't feeling it for one reason or another. Again, I liked it quite a bit still, but I just think that it certainly pales in comparison to the other films that I had watched. That's kind of all there is to it. Plus, I wasn't really feeling the protagonist as much as other protagonists in the story. But yeah, definitely watch The Cat Returns if you have not watched it, especially if you absolutely love cats. At number 12 is The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. This one is really interesting because of the hand-drawn looking animation style. Like everything that you expect from like traditional anime, or even Studio Ghibli's like own brand of anime when it comes to animation, is kind of thrown out the window, and you've got something completely different, which I liked a lot. I think it, in a lot of ways, it was the strongest thing about The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. And I really dug the story, and I really liked the protagonist, the Princess Kaguya, or Little Bamboo, known to some. But again, compared to like everything else that I watched, there just wasn't enough for me that it was like in my top 10 basically. Plus again, like I'm more of a fan of Ghibli films with an optimistic outcome versus with the Princess Kaguya. It's kind of just closed shut for our protagonist in so many ways. Plus, in a lot of ways, it kind of just feels like a cautionary tale about parents using their children for an ulterior motive or whatever. Again, really good. Definitely recommend it. Just compared to all the other ones, it wasn't for me. Otherwise, it would enter my top 10. And finally, at number 11, the last one outside of my top 10 out of all 14 is The Secret World of Arrietty. Again, much in the same way as the last three. Really dug it, just didn't really dig it as much as my top 10. I definitely dug like the mythology of the little people, who, the names of their species, I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but like Arrietty and her family just kind of migrating from place to place, and there's like a whole other civilization that's scattered about because of humans. But yeah, it doesn't really do a whole lot other than that to stand out in my opinion. Again, liked it a lot, but just, you know, compared to my top 10, I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but that's kind of just how it boils down to, because it's hard to nail down a specific criticism for any of these since they're all really good. All right, we are now in the top 10 territory. At number 10 is Castle in the Sky. I did like the mystery about the floating stone and the castle in the sky, and that we had a antagonist that was certainly just kind of a dick, like a clear and present enemy in the movie. Yeah, with Pompoko you had humans, You had the Cat Emperor and the Cat Returns as well. But with Castle in the Sky, I really liked that there were like mercenaries after her in the stone. You had like a whole army of people just going after her and trying to find the castle. Basically, Castle in the Sky, kind of a gatekeeping movie between the ones where it feels like I'm on this big adventure, whereas the other ones, it's things are happening and they happen for quite a while, but nothing that is like my cup of tea, basically. So yeah, definitely check out Castle in the Sky. Like, just a preface, you should catch all of these movies, especially nowadays when Ghibli is seen as like a fad or whatever, where you can just take an image and like add a filter to it and you call it art, which is inconceivably stupid. So yeah, definitely check out all these I mentioned, because I'm not going to repeat myself again, or at least I'm not going to try to. So at number 9 is Whisper of the Heart. Definitely a coming of age type of Ghibli movie for sure. I did find the protagonist who, again, a lot of these names I don't remember off the top of my head, since I watched these movies once, or at least a lot of them once, and dug them a lot, but don't remember characters' names. Since it's hard for me to remember a lot of them on first watch, unless it's like very clear in the title or whatever, like who they all are. But I really liked her struggle with creativity versus going to school and making something of yourself. And you just saw that kind of adventure like all throughout. Even though like it's limited to just her hometown, you definitely saw that kind of character development from like beginning to end. And then she has like that crush on that boy, and they just end up in a relationship at the end. Even if it was super abrupt how that happened, I wasn't really a fan of that. Really dug Whisper of the Heart in terms of the coming of age Studio Ghibli films. Even though a lot of these, it can definitely be argued that a lot of them are kind of coming of age. But the next one in that same vein is When Marnie Was There. This movie was definitely really sad. Oh my god, this was a really sad one. But I was definitely satisfied with a lot of what When Marnie Was There was doing. I really liked the mystery of who this Marnie person was, and then, spoiler alert, which it turns out was a past version of her grandmother, which I kind of sort of suspected it was something like that. And the friendship that they have was really well written, even if at points it was kind of lesbian coded. Hopefully I'm not the only one that thought that. Which inevitably made the reveal kind of weird at first, but once you get past that, like, I definitely dug that a lot. So yeah, big shout out to When Marnie Was There. That's my number 8. And at number 7 is Ponyo. I actually did not expect Ponyo to make it this high, but here we are. Ponyo's animation style I really dug a lot, and I just liked Ponyo as a character. How she wanted to just break free from the sea and wanted to just be a human, willing to give up her immortality in order to be a human and be with the boy in the process too. I think what I really liked the most was the animation overall of the sea and the waves and everything. It's just a really pretty movie. The only reason it's probably not higher is because Ponyo definitely made me feel like I was old. Because Ponyo is not up there with one of the more complex and more mature Ghibli films, in my opinion. It definitely was catered to a specific audience. But obviously it didn't completely sell out, otherwise, it would not be so high on my list. And at number 6, we have Kiki's Delivery Service. This is the last film before I get to my top 5 that I saw. I really dug Kiki's Delivery Service a lot. I liked seeing Kiki's character development as a whole. Just a lot of really good characters in Kiki's Delivery Service, which the fleshing out of all of them is just why it's kind of so high out of all of them for me. And honestly, the reason it's not in my top 5 is because my top 5 is just impeccable, and you just can't replace any of them. But yeah, Kiki's Delivery Service is definitely a runner-up for me if for some reason like any of the 5 films I'm about to mention get nuked, just erased from existence or whatever, which hopefully never happens. Anyway, yeah, we are now in our top 5 territory. At number 5 is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. This was actually technically pre-Ghibli. I believe it's the movie Miyazaki put out right before Studio Ghibli became a thing. But don't quote me on that, I could be completely wrong. I know Miyazaki was more inspired by The Lord of the Rings and the like, but it's definitely heavy on the Dune vibes for sure. And many people noting that Nausicaa is anime's answer to Dune. I just liked the nature versus man and man versus nature type of deal going on with Nausicaa with the Valley of the Wind. I really liked the design of the giant insect creatures that damn well could have just wiped everybody off the map for sure. Looking at it back in hindsight, I think maybe Mickey 17, in terms of the design of the creepers, may have been inspired by Nausicaa the Valley of the Wind in some way. So yeah, definitely dug Nausicaa the Valley of the Wind, and if you have not watched it, because it's not one of the more popular Ghibli films, I definitely recommend watching it if you can. See, I did it again. At number 4 is My Neighbor Totoro. This is a irrefutable Ghibli classic. Like, literally, the logo has fucking Totoro in it. This is their pride and joy movie. Out of all the ones that I consider to be Ghibli movies where it's kind of coming of age, this may actually be the best one. And the only reason it's not higher on the list is because it is short. It is so short. I just wish there was more. Why did you fall over? Because it does everything just so perfect. Atmosphere, the intrigue of Totoro and the cat bus, and just this whole world that is unveiled to the girls. Just such a damn good movie. The top 4 honestly just enters into like classic Ghibli, like straight classic Ghibli. Much in the same way as my number 3 pick, Howl's Moving Castle. I finally got to be able to watch it in full in theaters, and I absolutely dug the hell out of it. Really loved the animation, really loved all the characters. The English dub was great. You got to see Christian Bale do his Batman voice in an animated film. Much in the same way with Nausicaa the Valley of the Wind, you are presented with a conflict where it feels like you really just don't know who's going to come out of the other side intact. But since it's a classic Miyazaki Ghibli film, it more leans in the optimistic side of things. So, of course, good wins in the end. Just a great movie. I really loved Howl's Moving Castle. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, but I do. And at number 2, this jumped up my list, but that's also because of recency bias, since I actually caught it in IMAX format recently. Princess Mononoke. This is just damn good. This is one of like the best animated films of all time, including number 1, who you can probably guess, but we'll stay with number 2 for a second. This is Miyazaki at his most nature versus man and man versus nature, like out of all the movies out there of his. And it is brutal. It is surprisingly brutal. You see like decapitations and people get their arms chopped off in the movie. How did they get away with that? People get shot and blown up. It's a violent Ghibli movie. It's probably one of the most, if not the most violent Ghibli movie out there. And I think the intensity of it, as well as just how heavy the themes are about environmentalism and gender and a lot of other things, it just has. I love Princess Mononoke. I am not too sure if it's going to stay my number 2, but as of right now, I just dig the hell out of it. Again, a lot of recency bias there, but it's my list. I can do what I want and say what I want. And while I am liking and saying and feeling how I want, because you know, I am a person and not a computer. You, a person, not a computer, hopefully, should consider liking, subscribing, and commenting on the channel. It would definitely help me out a lot, and I get to see your beautiful faces. So please consider doing that. All right, on the subject of algorithms, I have sated that algorithm. And finally, at number 1, it's Spirited Away. I will just cut straight into it. It is my favorite animated film of all time. Just everything about Spirited Away is just so wonderful. The animation, all the characters. There are so many distinct and defined characters in Spirited Away. In my humble opinion, this is Miyazaki at his best. Again, it may not be as brutal and heavy on mythology like, say, Princess Mononoke is, or Howl's is, or Nausicaa is, but it doesn't really need to be. It's like if Alice in Wonderland and Oliver Twist and maybe a couple other movies all had a love child and it birthed Spirited Away. There's just so many new things I keep finding out with Spirited Away each and every single time I watch it. It's just so timeless, it never gets old to me. I love Spirited Away. And I love Chihiro as a protagonist. I think she is the de facto just quintessential heroine of the Ghibli universe, in my humble opinion. Just a character that does things even if she's scared because it's necessary in order to save the people that she loves and save herself in the process too, but mostly just the people that she loves. I think Yubaba is a great antagonist, and to this day I really like the fact that she has a twin named Saniba. I love No Face. Again, talk about a quintessential Ghibli antagonist as No Face, who just feels so... he's there, and he definitely starts eating people, but you really can't all that make heads or tails of him for a little while. At least I couldn't anyway. There's just so much to read with Spirited Away, and I am due for a rewatch at some point, even though I watched it twice last year. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the movies I caught at Ghibli Fest. Those weren't the only Ghibli movies I watched. I did watch The Boy and the Heron, since I ended up getting my Steelbook copy like at some point in July or August of last year. If I can find it anyway. I hope you guys are enjoying the view of my butt. Here it is. I got this last year, and I played it more or less the moment I got it. Honest to God, if this played at Ghibli Fest, this would have ended up my top 5 for sure. Anyhow, out of all of these movies, what were your favorites? Did you actually catch these in theaters last year, and what did you think of the experience? It did suck that I wasn't able to use these for my AMC A-list, but yeah, it is what it is. The important thing is I got to catch all of these movies, all of these really good movies in theaters, and in the format, or at least in terms of how you view movies, in the format that it deserves to be in. And if you didn't get to catch them in theaters, that's okay. Have you watched any of these? What did you think of any of them? And yeah, that's about it. And what are some other series or what have you I should consider doing rankings on in the future, kind of like this one? Sorry that a lot of these felt like rambling, or just felt like I said the same thing over and over, by the way. I did not plan anything. I just decided to get in front of the camera and just let you guys know what I thought about these movies. So if some of them felt more in-depth than others, then, you know, I apologize for that, but it is what it is. What definitely is still apparent is that these are all really good movies. I enjoyed all of them, and this is just the tentative order that I dug them in. Alright, I'm gonna stop rambling now. This is your boy Chrysalis here. Signing off. Almost forgot the wave.